63rd episode of UPSC Prep Decoded, a podcast brought to you by Abhyamkas IS so that you can study on the go. I, Anjali Pandey, your host for today, would like to welcome Ashay Abhyamkar to this conversation.
Thanks, Anjali.
Our topic for today is disaster management and urban planning. According to WMO, Asia is world's most disaster-prone region. Keeping this in mind, what kinds of disaster are prevalent in the urban and the rural setup?
Yeah, you see, Anjali, when you look at Asia being disaster prone, it's so very true because whether you look at the Nepal earthquake, whether you look at the floods in Pakistan, whether you are able to look at India being battered by so many natural disasters, whether it be the super cyclone of Odisha or the Bhuj earthquake or the flash floods that happened in Uttarakhand, Himachal, which is being ravaged by flash floods as we are speaking right now, right throughout the monsoons of 2023, you realize that you see the world actually woke up to disasters pretty late to try and build the science or the theory behind how to manage, mitigate disasters. But if you ask me very practically and pragmatically, I would say that today the issue is not about whether you can prevent a disaster, how you can manage it, or whether you are in a position to mitigate it. I strongly believe that disaster resilience is very critical, because if you are able to have disaster resilience, you have a faster way of bouncing back, and that is critical for life force, for economic force, and for the country as a whole. Now, when you look at the urban and the rural landscapes with regard to disaster, some time ago in the Raigad district of Maharashtra, incessant rains caused almost 100 to 200 individuals spread over 30-40 families to be wiped out overnight. So who and what do we blame, right? You realize that how much of infrastructure is good infrastructure, and where do we cross the line where those anthropogenic activities or infrastructure development actually cross into the space to create threat to mankind and to the environment.
So, in class, you often say that what cannot be measured cannot be managed.
That's right.
So, what about the natural disasters that happen on the large scale? For example, cyclones, tsunami, or flooding. How are we supposed to manage them?
You basically start learning from mechanisms, which are coming in through science and technology. So to just loop in your question to current affairs again, right? You have had the Balasore train accident, right? It is not a natural disaster. It was attributed to some foul play, pretty much man orchestrated. And you have had the cyclone Biparjoy as well. With regard to cyclone Biparjoy, it's very important to understand that our mitigation of resilience worked because there was not a single loss of life. With regard to the Balasore train accident, yes, certain precious lives were lost because of certain human factors that are still under investigation. But we were able to respond quick, right? We were able to act quick. We were able to take action. We were able to display our resilience. And if you look at Asia, I would kind of try to expand the scope of your question to all of East Asia as well. You see Japan, for example, earthquakes, tsunamis, the like. But if you have to ever travel in a metro or in a subway in anywhere in Japan, you would see posters all over the subway within trains saying that even if an earthquake were to strike, people should not panic, doors would open and they should be able to be escorted out to safety. So their entire developmental mechanism, their town planning, the materials that go into construction are built in a manner that can withstand or are rather resilient to disasters. So the best way is to have knowledge and technology sharing, to understand where your threat perceptions are much more higher, to ensure that man and ecology can survive in a very holistic and organic way. At the end of the day, man and environment includes man in environment. So we have to keep this very clear when we plan our developmental activities. And like they say, sustainability is the way forward. Also, when we look at sustainability, what is sustainable to one ecosystem or environment is not going to work for India and vice versa. So let's identify our own sustainability. Let's see what works for us. Let's plan for today and protect tomorrow.
So, when it comes to disaster management, how important is impact-based forecasting for managing and everything?
It's very, very important because at the end of the day, until and unless, like your earlier question said, that whatever can be measured can be managed. So any sort of impact assessment is going to tell you certain aspects of forecasting. They will tell you whether you need to pursue certain activities or not, and most importantly, understand the impact to nature and to human civilization as a result of those activities. So I believe that EIA and SIA are definitely integral parts of developmental and planning processes anywhere in the world.
So now that we have covered natural disasters, when it comes to disasters caused due to anthropogenic activities, from the policy's point of view particularly, how do we manage them?
Right, you see, when you look at policy initiatives, government has been taking certain very, very strong initiatives to try and check human or anthropogenic activities as far as certain spaces in this country are concerned. For example, if you look at the Gandhi Committee report with regard to Western Ghat conservation, whether you look at reports that are being undertaken with regard to the Himalayan ecosystem. Currently, after the urban flooding that happened in Delhi, there is a lot of initiative with regard to conserving the Aravalli ecosystem. So we have realized that all these mechanisms are going to be critical because you will have to fix man in the environment. The environment is perfect as it is, but man being an environment is creating problems because there is an exploitation of ecology for economic purposes, right? And that balance needs to be struck to ensure that, you see, we have enough for everybody's need, but there is not enough for everybody's greed. So I think that is the baseline of measurement in a situation like this, and that lays the road forward as well.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this podcast, do like, share, and subscribe. Your inputs and suggestions are always welcome, and you can contact us through info@abhyankaris.com. Show us some love on our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter handles that go by the name Abhyankar's IAS. Don't forget that these podcasts are also available on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. Keep listening and stay tuned for more.